Yo, yo, hello, hello. Happy Monday, deities. Welcome into another edition of Titan Talk. Isaiah here, Killgoon as usual, and we brought back Innocent Rabbit, aka Max, because we're going to be talking about some matchmaking updates today. How's everybody doing?
Doing good, doing good. Nice little weekend. Back to the grind.
Yep, we're back at it. How about you, Max?
I'm doing great. Had a good weekend as well. I was showing off my coffee earlier. It feels
Nice,
good. Feels
yeah.
good to be here. Feels good to be here.
Can you like hold it up for your webcam?
Oh, we're going to
Can
have a
you
spill.
Oh, that would be. That would
is,
be.
is the angle?
You know what?
wrong?
I'm gonna go for it.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
there
there
you
we
go.
go.
Look at that. Yeah.
Nice.
There we
Look at
go.
that.
Nice.
I made a little
Yeah.
heart. Isn't that cute?
Well, we
Actually
are
worked so well.
we're getting well caffeinated here because we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. I will pull up the handy dandy laptop just because we did have a patch go out live this morning with a couple bug fixes that we wanted to communicate with you all. First up, we fixed an issue where Baron's Brew could be thrown infinitely. That is not fun to play against.
No, it
So
was
that-
a weird edge case input tricking thing that reset the state of it while it was in the middle of firing. But we put some restrictions around that, so it won't happen anymore.
And the last one's a small one, but still important. We just fixed an issue with Titan's Bane and Conduit Gem item descriptions having some typos. So small patch for this morning, but a couple bug fixes. But Alex, I know you have some info on some upcoming balance that is
we're
going to be headed.
Definitely working on some
out
more
this week.
stuff. I know that we have some nerfs in the works for Zeus, for Sobek, and for Loki.
Yeah.
I know they were too strong. There's a lot of other stuff that we're working on the balance side. Should be coming, I'm assuming, tomorrow. There was a couple things that we were testing before they went out because we weren't sure how we felt about them. We didn't want to just push them immediately live. So I know that's in the works. And then I know we're working on a lot of other bugs as well. Please do keep sending in your bugs via the bug reports. We see all of those. And the bug report form has been updated to include an email address field.
Nice. Cool.
So including your email address does help the devs who are trying to track down those bugs. Sometimes they might reach out for additional information. I know that Dale in particular is very happy that he now has the email address of certain people having rare edge case things that he's been trying to track down. So really appreciate everybody who helps out.
Yep, and keep on sending Learn Me that balance feedback.
Oh, yeah.
We're hitting the stuff that you all think is too strong or too weak for sure. All right, well, small patch update. Let's get into the meat of things.
That was fast.
Yeah,
Max has a lot of charts.
It's a Monday. We're still, getting
I
ready
got
for
charts. I got charts. Yeah, it's Monday, so let's talk about numbers, folks.
Let's do it. Before I pull up the charts and stuff, Max, do you want to do like a preface or anything about what we're going to talk about today? Or
yeah, let's do it. So last week we rolled out our first real casual matchmaking change, which was really when we say these changes get rolled out, it's really just we develop new tech that we can then change in the future, right? We have certain settings and things that are going on that decide how the matches are made. And when we make a change, well, when we announce a change, it's not that we're changing settings, it's that we're introducing new tech. So for casual matchmaking, we introduced tech that the two big ones were about levels for like new players, but also experienced players, and then also for party compositions, and making sure that we're making matches that are more fair in those regards when possible. That's kind of the preface. We're gonna run into some ranked by the end of it, but we can throw up the first one just because it's interesting.
Here we go.
So this is kind of a show of a small amount of change, and I think that when you look at solo players, because they're the most common, they just kind of by default ran into a situation where before we made these changes, there wasn't, they were mostly playing against themselves or these parties of a duo +3 solo. So what we're looking at here, and the changes that were made, was that in casual matchmaking, what we added in was rules that when you're searching for a match for the first little bit of time, it's trying to make matches where there is a similar number of parties in the match. So we're trying to match up, a solo player is considered a party in our system. So if there's 5 solo players on a team, then the first one that we're going to be considering is a match with 2 teams of 5 parties. If we can't find a match of that, then we're going to expand to 1 team of 5 and 1 team of 4. And as there's more searching, those rules will relax. So when you look at solo players, I think that these numbers, they're starting to move in the right direction. But this is what I mean by we've introduced new tech, but we wouldn't say that we've kind of finished the job on this. This was put in on Halloween, so the 31st, and it's November 4th now. we're up like 2% in terms of like solo matchups and like 5% getting them against duos. But kind of maybe the more drastic one that we'll see is if you go to the next chart, we look at the matchups for full stacks, for 5 stacks. And these charts kind of show a bit of a more telling story of what this change has actually done. So previously, a 5 stack, about 10% of the time, was going up against solo players. Now it's about 1% of the time.
That's a big jump.
Again, with the most common matchup before was against a duo and then 3 solos, and that's been cut from about 25% down to closer to 10%. So these are settings that we're working with. We don't. All of these settings are such a balance, and we need time to be able to experiment with them, and that's why it's so nice to have this kind of closed alpha period where we can try settings out, see how it impacts both wait times and match quality, and then make adjustments as needed. So we're gathering a lot of really great data even over the last 4 or 5 days. We're going to adjust settings over the course of the week to make sure that wait times are not too long, but we're trying to optimize these matchups when possible.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just, this is so tremendously better, right? Like, you know, it's twice as often you're going to be going up against a full squad, right? Like 1/10 of the time you're going to be going up against 5 solo players instead of a squad. Like, I mean, it's just such an improvement that it should really reduce a lot of those like team diff matchmaking things that that people run into.
Yeah, and one of the things, and I'm just looking at chat talking about wait times here, just to be really transparent about how long you're waiting. You're looking for a similar match for the first like 45 to 60 seconds in casual queues right now, and by the 6-minute mark, it does not care. 6 minutes is maybe too long, and we're gonna be looking at that, but we're gonna keep cutting that down. This isn't something where we want you searching for 10 minutes to find the perfect match, especially when you're playing a casual game mode. The increase of full squads, right? So it doubled the rate of a 5-stack going against other 5 stacks. That is with only 45 seconds of saying, hey, let's find those 2 sizes that are the same. And again, we're now in count up queue territory. In Smite 1, we used to have countdown queues, and if you missed the queue, you had to redo it. So we're trying to adjust our expectations and make sure that we're looking at players and looking at the data that's coming in. But we're excited to mainly have the tech. Before we move on to the other one, I'll quickly say that we're doing something similar with levels. But I guess this is the teaser about levels, is that the level system is getting a pretty hefty rework, I'd say. I think that's a fair assessment of it. Sometime in the next, Alex, maybe you actually know the timeline better than I do.
In the next 2 months, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't exactly know when, but it's definitely in the next 2 months.
Yeah. And so the actual thresholds that we're using for that are all kind of subject to change. But yeah, this is the impact of the party stuff on casuals right now. It's going to be adjusting over the course of the week, so you may see most likely queue times go down. And one of the big things that we have to consider with any of these kind of searching rules is not just, you know, our NA queues or EU queues. We have other regions that are searching for matches. And I get to talk with the OCE folks pretty frequently. We're on the same wavelength, and there's sometimes we make a change and it really improves match quality, but it makes it harder for them.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting balance, because as of right now we can't do specific rules based on region. It's technically quite difficult from what I understand right now, but it's a feature that we're working towards in the near future. So yeah, those are the new rules. But let's take a look at some other numbers about it. Let's look at the next one.
Before we go on, I do want to loop back to the level teaser that you put out a little bit
earlier.
Sorry. No, it's okay. I just want to a little more context for folks. We are not going to remove all of your level progress. We aren't doing away with player levels completely. We're just kind of looking at how quickly you should be able to get to various levels, and probably going to be refining the curve and whatnot. So you'll still have the same amount of experience that you've earned so far. We aren't going to erase that. We're just going to, your level will be changing when we roll this out. And then, you know, there'll be rewards and stuff tied to levels eventually. And that's why we're making this change.
Cool.
Yeah. And it's only positive things if you've only played. Like
Yes.
knowing kind of what we're working towards. Having your current XP count towards it just means that, you know, if we tie rewards to levels, you're just gonna log in one day when we make this change and have a bunch of rewards waiting for
There you
you.
go. Yeah.
So
Nothing
yeah,
like logging
it's
in and getting free
it's exciting
stuff.
change.
I
I
love
love it, man.
It's so good. Sweet. All right, Max, you ready for the next chart/graph?
Yeah, well, the next one is related to this, and this is kind of
Alright,
why
cool.
we needed to make this change. Oh, never mind.
Uh-oh.
I thought the next one was a different one. No, this is great. This
Cool.
is the impact of party win rates in Conquest, pre and
Yeah.
post change, and I think this kind of goes to show why the change was important. This was
That's
actually a
huge,
great
yeah.
chart. I forgot that I made this. Yeah. So previously,
Thank God for you.
yeah, I did great here. You queued a 5-stack. You were super disproportionately winning your games. For listener onlys, full squad at 5 previously was a 56% win rate, 56.6 in casuals. After this change, it's been lowered down to 52.3. It's the most winning party type, and unless you always force them into a mirror matchup, they will always have an above 50% win rate. We can't do that because then you're searching forever. But we've drastically reduced it. We've moved all of the bars except for, I think, yeah, there's only one of them. The trio plus 2 solos got slightly better after the change, and I guess there's a few in the middle, but they kind of traded from 50.6 to 50.8%. And we've obviously perfectly balanced trio and duo parties. The flat 50.0 win rate is an accomplishment for all of us. But yeah, so this is the effect of the change. No matter what party type you are and team that you're on, you're in a more fair situation. And this is why we make changes like this. We're trying to make it so that there aren't inherent biases to our system to make it so that, because if there's a full squad that always wins, it means that there's players that are always losing against them. And that's what we're trying to avoid.
Cool. Yeah, it's really cool to see. Like, even the full squad, like, if I'm looking at all these post change and like being within like 2% of 50% win rate is really, really awesome.
And can I ask maybe this is going too deep on this, but I think it's interesting that like the win rate on 2 duos plus 1 solo went up so much. Do we know who they're matching against has changed to cause that, or?
So that is a party. There's 3 parties in there, right? There's the 2, and the 1. And so their most common, the one that we're kind of funneling them towards the most, is the mirror matchup or against the 3-1-1. I guess that means that they are more winning against those. The next chart may help answer some of these questions, guys.
So probably previously we were matching them up against full squads a lot more often, and that's what was causing. Okay, cool, makes sense.
Oh yeah, if you're below the 50% mark, it means you were fighting 5s, 4-1s, and 3-2s. Those are the strongest party types. I actually think, and I'm about to get checked on this in a few seconds, if my memory holds, 3-2s are stronger than 4-1s. But we're about to find out.
All right,
Make a guess. Make your prediction. Make your prediction. Hold on. Lock it in.
I'm going to say, like, psychologically, I feel like it's because the 4 hate on the 1, and they're like, they start blaming the 1 versus the, I don't know. Interesting.
All right, yeah. Well, we will see. I'm pulling up the next chart now.
Let's see it. Oh, they just barely. They're better.
Okay.
50.1%.
Nice.
I'm right. Yeah, I love these charts. I've made them before, but this is the SMITE 2 updated one. And honestly, I just find these kind of interesting pieces of information to have and show off why making these sort of rules into matchmaking are really important. The number for full squads, 5 solo, like a full squad, like 5 people in a party versus solo players. The number to light estimate of it always will be about 60-40. And there's different ways that you can address that by one of the ways that it was done in SMITE 1 that I think existed for a long time, and I I wasn't
see the chart.
Yeah,
in full glory.
let it show itself off. That was before kind of my time, was that we adjusted 5 stacks to have kind of like an ELO penalty to them to kind of estimate how much better we think they're going to be. that makes it so that you're in a really weird space where your 5-stack is playing against individually better players. So your matches feel really weird. It's much better to just try to get them against matchups that are less lopsided. There's kind of some interesting nuggets of information that you can kind of pull out of here. The ones that we look for here are the mismatches that are still close. So a 3-2 against a 3-1-1, that's two different types of teams, but it's still a matchup that is effectively a coin flip. Same with the 3-2s plus 4-1s. And so it kind of explains some of the reasons why making party-based rules for matchmaking is so important. And one of the things I said before, and I think maybe last time I was on here, was that we weren't going to reintroduce larger party sizes to ranked until we could get this kind of under control, until we could get our matchmaking into a spot where we can do that. So I think the next chart, if I remember yeah, it shows what we currently allow in ranked, right? Because we allow parties of 1, parties of 2, so they exist inside this box here. It's up to the most lopsided matchup is a 51.8% win rate, or I guess 52% win rate, and we don't love that, but it's not incredibly as unbalanced as the potential of like a full squad going up against solos.
And that's still pretty close to a coin flip. Like I know that you're the data guy and 2%'s a lot, but like, I feel like if I'm in a 48-52, I feel like I can go out there and outplay him and win, right? Like, because you're always going to be favored or not favored in any matchup you ever have of anything, right? Like, I feel like that's so close that it's basically a coin flip.
Yeah, it is. When we talk about balance and in general with both gods and matchmaking, you're often splitting hairs. But I think that a lot of people can look back on like a god that had a 52% win rate and went, wow, that god felt really OP. But sometimes they feel fine. So it's about also like the gameplay experience, not just the numbers of it. For instance, like a 3-2 going up against like a 4-1, it's a very similar matchup, sure. But one of the bigger, like more noticeable things about like a 5-stack going up against, one of the things that people in chat are pointing out is that on this chart, the most winning matchup for a full stack is against 2-2-1. And that could just be a sample size thing. We don't, I didn't have the individual matchup numbers here. Over a larger sample size, we would assume that it would trend towards the solos being the most losing matchup. But part of that is that even though technically there's a bunch of parties there and there should be some communication, a full stack plays so differently than solo players. And it plays so differently than a 2-stack as well. The level of communication and the way that they move across the map creates a match that isn't just lopsided numbers wide, but feels bad to play if that's not the experience that you are also going to have on your team. So this isn't just a numbers game, right? Like we have to keep in mind, for instance, I think a really good one here is that the 3-2 trio plus duo against all solos, it's a 53.8% win rate, right? So they win, what is that? Close to 8% more frequently than the solo team. It's quite significant, but it also feels really bad to play because there's this 3-stack running around, the duos have good communication, and it can feel like it's really hard to corral a team of full solo players. So I think one of the things that we wanted to do though is bring back the 3-stack to ranked. Like that's a goal of ours. We got a lot of really
good feedback too.
Yeah, positive feedback of players who want to do that ever since we disabled it because we were going to introduce it back into a queue that includes solo players. We've had people be like, I'm not going to play ranked until I can play with my friends. And we want that. So now that we have this tech, we're gearing up for it, I think this week. I think this week we're going to be re-enabling sometime by the end of the week 3-stacks back into ranked. However, if we go forward one more chart,
boom,
that means that we have to consider all of these matchups, right? And the casual matchmaking tech that we made was to limit the number of parties and matches so we could kind of expand that search radius. For ranked, we're not going to be expanding anything. We're just going to be choosing the matchups that we are okay with. It's just a strict, like, this matchup can happen or this matchup cannot happen. For instance, the trio plus duo against solos will never happen in a ranked match. If you go to the next chart, we can take a look at the ones that we currently have proposed. And this is where we're, I guess, looking for community feedback. For ranked, currently the ones in the green boxes are the matchups that we are considering enabling when we enable 3 stacks back into ranked. There's other considerations for 3 stacks in ranked that have to do with leaderboards and SR. Those things will get sorted out separately. But making sure that ranked matches are fun for everyone to play is kind of, let's say, main priority here. So solo players against, if you're a team of solo players, your kind of strongest enemy team matchup can just be 1 duo and 3 solos. If you're in a duo queue, you kind of have the widest range of matches possible, ranging from against the solo players all the way to the trio duo. But then trios, the main thing with the trios is that they're only going to be in a match that includes another 3 stack.
Yeah.
We don't want them in a match that doesn't have that. So this is what we're looking at, except for, there's going to be trios can go up against the 2-2-1 for now. But that's kind of the main one that we'd be monitoring. So feel free to give us feedback about these proposals. DM me on Twitter, respectfully, and we can chat about it, because this is exciting stuff. Like, I love playing Smite with my friends on a Friday night sometimes, and I have enough people who I play with that want to be competitive now. But you're playing with 3 people. Previously you couldn't play ranked, but let's allow Smite players to play with their friends in ranked. I think it's a fun thing first, and then we can work out the competition side once we have a player base for ranked that's large enough to support it.
Yep, I know trios are one of the most popular party sizes, or usually tend to be in most games. I don't know if they have been for Smite 2 so far. I haven't seen those numbers yet. I'm sure you probably have, but I'm sure that people will be very excited to have that back, because it seems like getting a group of 3 friends together is just kind of the sweet spot for most games these days.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
We're definitely looking forward to the feedback. And this is what the test season is for, right, Max?
For sure. Yeah, the test season is explicitly for making sure that we have all our party rules, our competition rules, everything in a good spot. We're really trying to long-term plan now for a really sweet kind of first non-test season. What that exact season title is TBD, I'd say. We're tossing around a few ideas. But yeah, we're gearing up for some really cool stuff when we go first non-test season. Levels of competition. I've had a few, maybe even more unexpected than normal when it comes to our ranked system. People reach out to me internally, and we're cooking up some cool stuff. So nice. Yeah, it should be sweet.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm excited for trios to be back in ranked.
Yeah, I saw somebody in chat saying, "Please add trios back." Well, we're doing it.
That's what we're saying.
We're doing it for you.
That's what we're talking about.
That's what it is. Yeah.
One other
someone also said, "Can't wait to snipe Max this Friday." Pretty messed up. I share personal anecdotes, and people use that to their advantage.
I know one other thing that's come up a lot recently for ranked matchmaking is like role assignment. I don't know if there's much of an update you can give us there on how the system's working now, and what changes, maybe if any, we're thinking about.
Yeah, that's a really good one to bring up. Role assignment, the system is working very efficiently in terms of the raw stats of it. But as we look more and more, there are certain ways that we want to improve it. One of the biggest pieces of feedback that we've gotten kind of across the board with ranked is that at first, top pick wasn't getting their role. Yeah. And no matter if you're top pick or not top pick, a lot of players really wanted that top player get their role, captain the team. You're doing the bans right now. Like, let's make sure that you're doing what you know how to do. But the one that's been coming up more frequently is and it's partially because of Smite 1, I think, but have that second ranked player in the lobby also have an amount of priority. We don't want to create a system where it goes top to bottom. If you go top to bottom in terms of like first player gets their role, then the next player, then the next player, we kind of throw out the window a lot of the gains we have made in terms of doing efficient role assignment. and making sure that players are playing roles that they're generally comfortable on. However, we can definitely start to put our fingers on the scales to make sure that if you are one of the top players in your party, in your lobby, you have an amount of preference. It's not to say that it's the end all be all. Our kind of idea for this is to go top player, you're gonna get your role. That is kind of the standard that we're playing within. The second player, you're gonna have a few rocks on your scale to help you weigh towards you, and then after that, it's gonna be everyone else. There's nothing about SR order past that. It's just gonna be trying to efficiently assign past that. One of the things that we have been having with role assignment is people who have kind of gone on these long runs of not getting their top role and getting a lot of second and third ones. And that's something that we have a very direct fix for that's coming in kind of in the next week and a bit. It's partially a bug. There's a small bug that's making it worse. It's partially a factor of this system playing very fair. Like, it's very fair, which means that if you're in a lobby and you selected mid as your top pick, which is currently the most common first pick role, and 3 other people have mid, you're rolling a 3-sided die. And you're going to roll that 3-sided die poorly pretty frequently across enough players who are playing our games. You know, rolling not your one number 5 times in a row is going to happen quite a lot, and we're going to be told about that. So there is a bug that is making it worse, which is getting fixed. But there's also a few design changes to make it so that if you go on these runs, we're like, okay, hold on, no, give this, just let them play mid. Yeah. It's okay. They've been losing their dice roll for too long. So both things are happening. Thanks for the feedback. We've been getting a lot of feedback about the system, a lot of really positive feedback, and also some people who've been like, it's great to get just in terms of feedback on the feedback. It's lovely when people give like really detailed, specific feedback, like, hey, I had these 8 matches in a row, because it lets someone like me go and look at those matches, look at exactly what happened, and it often is what is the thing that like illuminates an issue. If you just get nebulous feedback of, oh, well, like this happened, it's very hard to track it down. So shout outs to a few people. Chris, the streamer, gave me some really good feedback last week about it, so worked out.
Awesome. Well, I think it's time for Q&A, right?
Time for some Q&A.
Unless you have anything else that you want to talk about, Max.
No, that was great.
The floor is yours. This is your show.
Yeah.
No, thank you for letting me platform some of this stuff. I'm keen to gather feedback always, and people have been very keen to give it. Honestly, in a really awesome way. I think that we have a pretty involved player base around matchmaking and ranked, and a lot of passionate people, and I mean that as a positive thing. Yeah, it's been great.
Absolutely. All right, I am looking at chat. What do y'all want to talk about today?
I will answer this one while we're getting some questions.
Let's do it.
Is Trio Rank coming back today, or is it just in the talks right now? Not today. Maybe end of the week is kind of what we're thinking. Yep.
Yeah,
okay.
It's the rules are ready to go. It's just coordinating it all. If I were to guess, like Thursday, Friday.
Cool.
Sometime for this weekend. Play with your friends.
Sexy Magikarp asks, will there be flash tests this week for the new gods? I think that is the plan, which is why I believe on the Wednesday show we're going to have somebody from design to show off the new gods. Yes,
I think.
Might be Lermy.
Yep. Might be Lermy, might be somebody else. But we're going to be going over the new gods on Wednesday.
Yep. So we're going to have 3 new gods coming in. We're going to have
Khepri, Nemesis, and we haven't talked about the last one. Izanami is coming in the next match, so we'll be going over all 3 of those on Wednesday. So.
Yep. So tune in, check out the new gods, see the +1s, and the model updates. We kind of showed off Nemesis and Khepri already. Izanami is less of a change, so we didn't show her off, but we'll take a look at her on Wednesday.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
We got a question here. Are there any plans to implement restrictions for accessing ranked conquest? The answer is yes. Doing it during closed alpha has historically felt wrong, but we know what we want them to be. They're going to be quite a bit less restrictive than SMITE 1. SMITE 1, it's like play 150 hours, then you get to play ranked.
Hit level 30, get down 10 gods, mastery 2 or something like that. It's pretty restrictive.
Very restrictive. We're cutting that way down. But yeah, there's going to be restrictions. brand new players are going to have to play a few Conquest games first, make sure that they get their feet wet before jumping in.
There was a question that kind of scrolled by that I want to go back to. It was just, do you still plan to do this show even after January? I think that we plan to kind of keep doing it as long as the community's into it and feels like you guys are getting something out of it. I might not be here for a few weeks in January. I'm expecting a child, so I'm going to be out for a few weeks in January. But the show will continue. We might go on a little paternity hiatus, or maybe you'll continue on without me. But we'll keep the show going.
We get some special guests lined up.
Bring the child on the show as a guest.
Dude, I don't know if my wife would let me bring a newborn into the office, but yeah. So I'm expecting my second child in January, so I'm very excited about that.
Cool. We were talking about it on the weight screen, but I do see someone asking about the flood protection for emotes and laughs. We thought that we had removed that. We're going to double check that.
Yeah, I thought that it was removed. It's possible also we put like not like a full removal, but like a much higher cap on it to where if you're hitting the cap, you're really going crazy. But we'll take a look at it. I definitely had somebody like spam laughing at me in an arena game a few days ago. So I think we fixed it. Yeah.
I got 2 questions about me back to back, so I'm going to answer them really quick.
Let's do it.
Who's Max's favorite god not in the game yet? Scylla. Does Max help with any stats regarding what gods are chosen for the release or new Smite 2 gods to release? Yeah, it's just whatever gods I like. No, we all it's a big process, and I think that it's constantly evolving, as I think we've talked about before. So yeah, I'm kind of involved, but I think everyone's kind of involved. It's a collaboration.
Let's see.
Are you gonna allow more freely match-made games, or they'll be kind of forced 50% algorithm like most games? I think it's an interesting question. I think I know what you're trying to get towards, which is the restrictions on kind of skill-based matchmaking versus that idea of like throw everyone into a lobby and just see what happens. I think we're more focused on the fun of a match over the raw balance of it. Party mismatches, which lead to mismatch win rates, are not fun to play. Playing with people of widely different experience levels is not fun to play. But those aren't strictly number things that we're like win rate things that we're looking at. And those are now our first 2 kind of lines of defense for matchmaking. So I'd say as an ideological sense, we're thinking more about states of match that are fun and enjoyable rather than states of match that lead to 50% win rate. Levels and party composition all have a correlation to that, but it's not the goal. We're not sitting here being like, how do we make sure every player has a 50% win rate? In fact, we don't expect players to have a 50% win rate. If you're very good, you're going to be 65, 70. Our pros are really good, and it makes actually matchmaking really hard sometimes. This is all the SPL players out there. Be less good.
Yeah,
actually,
be less good.
Make my job easier.
There are a couple people talking about using push to talk in lobby while in ranked. What are you on, controller or keyboard or mouse, or what's if you're on controller, what controller input are you on? It's possible we have something double mapped there that we need to take a look at. I do not use push to talk because I'm lazy, so I have not run into that. PC keyboard. Okay, keyboard and mouse. Okay, we'll take a look at that. We probably just have something double mapped to the same key by default, and we can change that.
Sweet. Another one here. If I'm a great player, but I party with a new player who's bad, how will it matchmake us to give the new player a good experience? Really hard question. Just genuinely hard question. Hard to do because if you're a great player and you're playing with a bad player, we put you in a bad lobby, you stomp everyone. We put your new player in a really great lobby, they do terribly. So it's just objectively a difficult one to handle. Currently the approach that we've gone for is averaging. So we treat you as the sum of your parts in casuals. In ranked, we treat you as your best player. You're in a competitive setting. If you want to bring a bad player in, they're going to be brought up kind of to your level. Proceed with caution in ranked, but in casuals right now, we're going for averaging. We're going to be keeping an eye on that one, though. It's a really tough one, and it's a great question.
Let's see here. So with the plan for ranked to incorporate queues with party of 3, has there been any consideration to combat potential match hijacking of the party, aka trolling while not surrendering?
Yeah, I mean, toxicity stuff is definitely a big focus for not just ranked but across the board. I think that one of our big goals long term with ranked, and it's something that's just going to keep happening over time, is to make it so that, I guess, as a ideological standpoint, to keep talking about ideology here, bad things are going to happen in games. Like, it's just like we cannot stop people from being bad. We can punish them, sure, but punishments make it so that the bad player had the bad experience. And yeah, we will do the punishing side of it, because don't do that, bad. However, finding ways to mitigate bad situations is the kind of goal. So let's say players hijack a lobby. It'd be amazing as a long-term goal to be able to get in certain like SR shields onto a game. If we're like, yeah, you got owned by your team here. This was a toxic reportable offense that they did. Here's your like 50% buffer shield. Those are concepts that we want to explore. If we had infinite time and manpower, it'd probably already be in the game. But it's just about lining up which ones we can do first. Yep. Rage quitter Q penalty. Yeah, the same thing. I think it goes into not just rage quitter, but just overall kind of like toxic Q identification. Some people talk about like having them in their own separate queue. Again, the more we split out the queues right now, the harder it is. So there's mitigation things that we would rather do first, while we have just the realistic approach of like, we don't want to split our players all that much. However, yeah, if people are going to be toxic, we have to be addressing that. So goals for sure.
And we talked about it on a previous show. We do have a new kind of back end thing called Get Good, which can detect some trolling behaviors that aren't verbal. So we are working on that. It's not fully implemented yet to start banning people or anything, but we are doing more and more on that side to be able to understand that kind of thing. One question here, has there been a push to get more players into the game with the recent key drops? Is there a worry that the community is too small to give good data? I would say not really too much of a worry that the community is too small to get good data. Max can correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that we have enough players to get representational data. I would say that the community is a little bit skewed more towards good SMITE players than beginners. So it has been a little bit more challenging to get, new player feedback, which is kind of to be expected at this point in time, because, if you're going to go to the trouble of hunting down a key or giving us money, you're going to be pretty invested in the game, right? Especially in 2024, where there's so many games out there that you can just play for free, right? I will say, so we've made keys easier to get through Twitch drops. We also put the Founders Editions on sale this week for people that had been on the fence and not bought in so far. And as a positive note, internally, we've seen our new player retention numbers for the people that have come in recently kind of inching upwards. Yeah. So it shows that we're on the right track, that people that are coming in now are starting to stick around a little bit more and play a little bit better. We know we're not done yet, but I think generally speaking, we feel like things are going in a good direction. Yeah. And again, once the game goes free to play, we're expecting hopefully a much bigger surge of players and, more sustained larger population, hopefully.
Yeah, that's a lot of what we're talking about with these matchmaking things. As like a lens to view it through, we're trying to do what we can to make it so that, especially when we go free, new players walking in the door have a great experience, and established players don't have a reduced experience. Yeah. All these things that we're talking about right now, it's great for the closed alpha, but the focus, the goal of them is not a closed alpha state. So again, someone in chat mentioned that they've been on a roller coaster just to give me data. Appreciated. We're using it. We're using it all we can, and I'm excited to see what happens when we do open those floodgates a little bit more.
Absolutely. I saw a question earlier, and I think I lost it. It scrolled past. I forgot exactly who asked it, but the question was about the potential for adding drafts in casuals, so like a pick and ban phase in casual Conquest.
It's, if the community wants us to do it, we could do it. I would say that we will not splinter the player base further, right? I don't think it makes sense for us to have a casual Conquest with no picks and bans, a ranked Conquest with picks and bans, And then this third, casual but picks and bans. I think that there's a pretty narrow group of players that probably would choose to play that. So I think it would probably need to replace regular casual conquest. Yep. I'd say the reason why we don't have it right now is that the more that we do it, putting that in has two major impacts on the game. The first is that it makes it take longer for you to get into the game. Even if you do it in the way where if everybody has a ban and everybody's banning at the same time or whatever, it still is going to add 30 seconds to a minute to every match that you play. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but we talk internally about can we remove 5 seconds from the startup timer because we're trying to get you into the action more quickly, and it sucks. Every minute you spend playing Smite that you don't spend playing Smite just is less good, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that if you have bans or draft pick, you are restricting the god pools that people can pick from, and especially beginner players trying to learn Conquest usually only have a handful of gods that they feel comfortable playing at a level that they are comfortable to go into Conquest with, right? It's when I started playing, I don't know, I was I can play a mirror really well. Okay, I need to pick a mirror in Conquest or else I'm going to lose. And then it's if somebody else picked a mirror or banned a mirror, I would just be like, oh man, I'm screwed, right?
I don't know what to do.
Maybe that's a good thing because you have to learn gods more quickly, but you're also just going to have a lot more losses early. And we find that if you lose matches at the beginning, you're more likely to not stick around, right? That's one of the reasons why in Smite 1, you play bots for a long time because people need to win a lot of matches early in their career so they feel like they are good at a game so that they stick around and keep playing it. And this isn't just Smite that's done this. One of my favorite examples in history, does anybody remember Gears of War, the first Gears of War, right? So Gears of War multiplayer has a hidden stacking newbie buff where you will deal more damage and receive less damage until you get a win. And then for each win you have, until you get 5 wins, then it goes down to you're dealing normal damage and you're receiving normal damage. But they don't show damage numbers on screen, so they get away with that. But it's so important that you perform well in games as a new player. And if it's I can't play my god, you're just going to lose, right? So anyway, that's maybe more details than you wanted about stuff, but that's my concerns about it. Is it takes longer to get into game. We're restricting people from playing gods they feel comfortable playing, and they're probably going to lose more as a result of it. I don't think we can support 3 different queues. Yeah. So I haven't been reading chat at all. I've just been talking. So Max, it looks like he's been reading. Do you have?
No, the Gears of War thing blew my mind. To be completely honest.
Cool, right?
I did not know about that. That's insane.
Give new players
people wouldn't be upset if we did that at all, right? Let's give.
Well, because you can see the numbers in our game, we couldn't do it, right? But in Gears of War, it's just your screen gets red, right, and that's it. So it's he must have headshot me with the shotgun. It's no, he shot you in the back 3 times, or so.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
I mean, the conversation is mainly around mirror matches, players not liking mirror matches. I think that another partial solution to that is just the fact that the more gods we have, the less common mirror matches are.
It's true.
In Smite 1, I did a whole thing on finding, scoregami, the football thing.
Yes, I love scoregami.
Yeah, I did a whole thing trying to find Smite. Both Smite matchup agamis, but also the last time there was a full mirror match in casuals, and it happened once a year. It was so unbelievably rare, probability wise, when we have that many gods in the pool. So the more gods we add, the less common mirror matches are going to be. Is kind of another solution to that. I think it's fair to say that this isn't a off limits topic, right? Of saying that maybe down the road we explore different ways to get into a match that can maybe limit mirror matches. We're not 100% sure on that, but I think that everything you said is completely correct. We're not going to make 2 separate casual queues, especially a casual ranked light queue would have a infinitesimally small player base. I mean that is an assumption, but the players who want to draft, most of them go to ranked. But I understand a lot of the complaints about it as well. Yeah. But yeah,
this is a really bad idea. I shouldn't just start designing live on the show.
I really think you should.
No, so if the problem is mirror matches, right? What if both teams pick their team, right? And if there are mirror gods on both teams, then we flip a coin and one person has to pick a new god. They're both
No,
banned?
they're both
Oh.
banned.
They both just have to pick a new god. Something I don't know. I'm just trying to think, like, is there a way that we could make this faster if the main thing people are trying to avoid is mirror matches? But it's good to know that, like, if that's the main issue, we can think about it a little bit and see if there's a way that we can do that doesn't ruin the game flow, or not ruin, but slow down the game flow or make people play gods they aren't comfortable with.
Yeah, I think it's the main one. Mirror matches is everyone who brings this up, because they talk about it with matchmaking quite frequently. It's don't need the bans, just don't want to play mirror matches. I'd say that, yeah, that's a much larger umbrella of people. So that's why I say it's not like out of the question that we think of something that tries to mitigate that.
Cool. When will we get 3D pings to see pings in front of you without looking at the map? We should look at that.
Yeah.
That's
I'm going to take
a fantastic point.
I'm going to take a photo of that because that is a very good point of something that we should do. It's hard for
You're
me to
gonna
take
take
notes.
a photo. I can take a screenshot for
This
you.
is
I got
this
you.
is the best way for me to take notes during the show. Is what I found, because I don't want to like write things down.
you
I'm just
really
like,
just
I'm just
take
gonna take a picture of
the
chat.
screen, like-
It's great. I've started doing. I've been doing it for like a week now, and like very few people have called me out on it. It's great.
That's so awesome. I love that.
Minimap ward radius, I think, is something that we know it's not displaying well on the minimap. It's something that we plan to get to. It might take a little while, but I believe the actual radius is correct. It just doesn't look good on the minimap.
Yeah, I did see a report in the Ambassador Discord server a couple days ago about certain spots on the map to where if you place a ward close to certain walls, like the radius isn't displaying properly or something like that, and I know the team is looking at that as well.
I know that we recently changed how they do appear on maps, though. They look quite a lot nicer than they did. I hopped onto a game and I was like, oh, nice. That looks better. Yeah.
Cool. I've been seeing.
Sorry. Apparently, I have
Yeah,
bad
I saw
energy
the
of
same
taking photos of computer screens.
It's fitting, you know.
It is. It is.
Gosh, what was I saying? Oh, I saw one question about worshiper weekends, and I see another person asking about boosters. I know that's something the team is talking about right now, trying to get that functionality in. We currently don't have that functionality in SMITE 2 yet, but we definitely hear the feedback about people wanting, you know, those boosts and worshipers, earning those Ascension Pass levels a little bit quicker and stuff like that.
There's just been a lot of talk about Arachne today. I just see Arachne's name come up all the time in chat. Arachne is not a soon-to-come god in SMITE 2. So definitely good to theorize about her, but I don't have a lot to update on Arachne right now.
Someone said SMITE 2 is saved.
I like Arachne. I miss old Arachne. Give me my eggs and pull somebody in and hop on their back. Totally uninteractive and not a good kit. Not something we should bring back, but I miss that because I love hooks. My favorite, I've said this in an interview before, my favorite SMITE character is Sylvanas.
Yeah.
And I feel like just such a god playing Sylvanas, like hooking people in and rooting them, knocking them up. I feel like it's like, come at me, bro. You know, like it's my favorite god to play. So I want to hook in SMITE 2, but you know, not in the immediate future.
Why did we implement voice chat, which is way more toxic than text has ever been, when text chat is clearly not remotely important for y'all?
Text chat is at least remotely important for us. No, so the only reason why we implemented voice, I'm sorry, I'm being too silly.
Yeah.
The only reason
I liked it.
the only reason why we implemented voice chat first is because a very large percentage of our player base is on console.
Yeah.
And that percentage of the player base never uses text chat. They see text chat, they see people yelling at them, and they don't really have a way to respond other than to stop moving and to type in a slow message on their their on-screen keyboard, or to plug in a keyboard, which is just really obnoxious if you're a console player. So voice chat is something that touches the whole community, and we thought was a more important priority to get the whole community able to communicate with each other, because we didn't want to have just consoles out by themselves and they can't talk to anybody. So that's why it was the first priority. The other reason why text chat has been a little bit delayed is we're trying to figure out the best solution to implement text chat in a way that is both better at addressing toxicity than it was previously. Our old text filter in SMITE 1 allows for a lot of awful things to be said, which is not good. I don't think anybody should agree that that's good. So we want to make sure that we're doing a better job at filtering text before we just open the floodgates, and being able to go back and see, did somebody do something bad? Do we need to do something about it, right? So we've been trying to figure out the best solution to do that. I think we've settled on a solution over the past 2 weeks, I would say, and we're moving forward towards implementing it now-ish. It's not going to be coming in the next week or two. It's still a little ways out, but we have a solution. We're working towards getting text chat in the game. And when it first comes out, it will be in pre-match lobby, in the game, and then in post-match lobby. And we're actually, because of the way that lobbies work in Smite 2, we're probably going to restrict it in post-match lobby, so you'll have chat for 60 seconds after the game's over, and then chat will stop working.
Yeah.
So you can't just yell at each other for hours anymore. Sorry.
Hanging out in the match lobby.
But the text chat kind of lives on the same instance as the game itself does in this world. So we would just have to keep the game server running for a long time, and it just doesn't make sense. So we will have chat in those 3 places. We will be filtering out people from saying horrible things if we're doing our jobs right. We may be a little too aggressive on the filter at first, but we'll be able to dial it in. So that's coming hopefully soonish.
Yeah. Someone asked about tier adjacencies with parties. I'm just going to rattle off a few here. Yeah. Right now, no restrictions. What the kind of January move towards final version of Ranked looks like is a little TBD. Having it be full open is great for letting friends play together. Harder for making a match that everyone's happy with. So we're going to try to find a middle spot. Right now, we dissuade you from doing it by giving you reduced rewards if you play in a wide party. And then also someone asked, will there be a post-game recommendation system to value a player like who deserved it, like had a good game? I think we talked about this maybe last time I was on. I've talked about it a few times. But yeah, doing something about performance is a really interesting question, very complex. We'd love to do it in the medium future sort of thing. Just 2 that I picked out.
Cool. All right. Well, we are at 1:59.
But
so
we started a little late.
Let's hang out for a little more. Couple more questions. 3 more questions.
Okay,
yeah.
3 more questions. There's a question: are there any new core game mechanics in the works to add more depth to the game? I think we're always looking for ways to add more depth to the game. There's a couple things that we're testing internally that may pan out or may not pan out, right? But generally speaking, yes, we're always looking for ways to do more. And I think that, as much as people are memeing on UE5, like UE5 is allowing us to move this quickly and allowing us to test some of these things out and see pass fail real quick. Is this going to make the game better? And then be able to put in the dev time to make it great versus, moving on from the idea. So.
Did we talk about Uller already? We showed Uller off last week.
Yes.
We haven't said any more about Uller, though.
Yeah, he is, I don't even know if he's play testable in dev yet. He's pretty far out, but he is on the docket, and we are working on
him. Someone keeps talking about pre-picking gods before match. It's definitely an interesting idea. One of the reasons why for Smite it would change a lot is because of roles. Mm-hmm. It would be, you're picking per role, and then you couldn't trade roles because you couldn't trade gods. The role plus god equation is a little bit more complex than what allows us to just slam you in. And that's because right now we're not really willing to do things to hard assign roles. We don't necessarily trust it. However, again, long term, anything is possible, man. So we'll keep looking at it.
It's definitely an interesting thought, though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm, for sure.
When will we be able to give people commendations at the end of the match? I would say that's not on our roadmap right now. What we saw in Smite 1 was either you win the game and you commend everybody on your team, or you lose the game and you report everybody on your team. And that's kind of the outcome that we most likely see, right? Or you report at least somebody on your team, right? So I don't think it was doing a good job of encouraging positive behavior. And I think you can say there's some reasons around that, right? I think one of the big ones is we let you commend everybody on your team and didn't just give you one commendation. We also restricted it to only commending people on your team versus commending people on both teams, which was supposed to do so people wouldn't toxic commend the guy that goes at 0 and 11 on the enemy team, right? I think we had good feelings about that, but I don't think it had the psychological impact that we wanted, and people never really took it seriously. So something we could definitely look at again in the future, and we certainly will look at, but it's when we think about all the things that we could be doing to make SMITE 2 better? Is commendations the thing that we should be putting our effort into right now? Probably not, but probably sometime next year we'll get to it. Can we have a God roadmap soon? Oh, sorry. Go for it, Max.
No, please, you go. Yours is a less dirty question.
Yeah.
I'll go after.
No, so I think we're gonna do the 3 gods tomorrow
Or Wednesday.
Wednesday. And then, do we have somebody planned for Friday? Are we gonna have JMac on Friday, or are we gonna have JMac next Friday?
I think next Friday for JMac.
Next Friday.
Yeah.
So we might do the roadmap on Friday. We might do it sometime next week. We've got a little bit of work to do to pull it together, and it is subject to change, like everything we talk about on this show. So the problem is, as soon as we show the roadmap, people are gonna be like, "But you said this god is coming out on this date," and we're like, "This is the world,
changes,
right?
yeah.
It changes." So we do want to share it sooner than later and let you guys know, because most of the questions we get on the show is who are the next gods.
Yeah.
We aren't going to go into what their +1s are. We aren't going to do any of that. It's just kind of like, here's the cadence we're looking to hit, and here's maybe some things that could change in how we approach it.
The question that I got was, can we get data visualizations of our god history stats? Man, I have such a pitch about what I want to get into the game eventually, both in terms of performance, but your own history with a god, with roles. I want it all. So if it's up to me, you're just looking at cool, nice, aesthetic, visual charts. The SMITE gameplay comes secondary to me.
I know, right?
So all that stuff I want. And
it's the next adventure
yeah, we're
is
working
SMITE
towards it.
chart from Max.
Yeah, SMITE chart.
SMITE
Hey,
chart.
hey,
That's pretty good. I like that. SMITE chart.
Yeah.
We got Max making and SMITE chart.
Max making and SMITE chart. Yeah, so we have stuff. We have like full concepts for a lot of really cool things that hopefully sooner rather than later we can start working towards. It's all building blocks though, right? Like I had a whole pitch about performance and how we can do performance. You can't do it without having roles in the game. And being able to identify what role a player played without looking at like the actual one they selected. So there's so many back-end systems we need to build out to do the cooler things, and we're doing that bit by bit. So we're getting there. Cool stuff will come.
Gamru asks, I appreciate all of what you guys have done, but as a console player, what's the plan for console improvements like UI and controls, etc.? Examples is the movement and or camera restrictions while in certain UIs in SMITE 2, while SMITE 2 has movement and camera allowed in similar UIs. If there are specific screens where you're having these issues, please let us know. I think that we've got most of them addressed. The other thing that is new to SMITE 2, which you may not have seen, is in the settings menu, there's an option called movement allowed in menus or something like that. So you can actually, in SMITE 2, move in, I think, every menu. Even when you have the store pulled up, you can run around and fight. I think you can use abilities and stuff. So there's more options, I believe, there already, if you choose to opt into them. But I think that we've got most of it there. If there's specific things you would like us to look at, please let us know, and we can take a look at them.
Someone asked Worshiper leaderboard one day.
Yes.
Worshiper leaderboard one day, and I think it's a great idea. So I'm going to do one thing really quick.
Take a picture.
Yeah,
there you go.
great.
Save it for later.
Yeah.
Killgoon wasn't paying attention. He missed it.
I'm sorry. I was reading the chat. I'm sorry. What did you say?
I took a picture of chat. I took a picture of chat. I learned from the best. I learned from the
It's a good
best.
strategy, right? Like, how am I supposed to take notes right now?
Oh, man. That's great.
Cool. All right, we should probably take our last questions
All
now. I'll let this drag on too long.
You're
Sorry.
good. You're
but
good.
thank you for sticking.
All right, now it's time for one
more question.
Dun, dun, dun. Let's see. I'm gonna let the chat fill up a little bit more.
People have been asking about drawing on Minimap. And I think it's both amazing and hilarious idea that will lead to just the most insane things right away.
I think we know.
I have no
preview
preview on that. Yeah, we know immediately. I just wanted to point out the awesome question.
Yeah. I will talk about the subject of items. We've had a couple people say, I feel like we need more items. All these gods are great, but when are we getting more items? In order to deliver all of these gods, pretty much all of our design bandwidth is going into making gods. We don't have a lot of bandwidth to make additional items. There's a little bit of talk internally about like how we can maybe get a few things in, but I think the bigger, more useful feedback to us right now is what items are in the game that don't feel good. Because if we have a useless item in the game, we'd rather like fix that and make that better first before we start adding new things. So if there are specific bad items, shout those out. I think that's a good place for us to start. And if every item in the game is usable, then it's going to feel more like we have more items.
Yep.
Someone asked, what stats would Max add to end of match lobby? We added the end of match like stats, like grid chart, as kind of the placeholder for what I think our maybe more long-term plan is, which is to get a nice detailed match performance tab in that gives you some more interesting insights into how the match went for you and an ability to kind of self-evaluate against yourself and then against other players. One of the versions of that I think looks amazing, it's super visual and it ties into the game directly, is something like a heat map that can show you like where on the mini map you've done your damage or earned your gold, and then being able to kind of like flick through a few different visualizations of that I think would be a great way to tie stats into actual gameplay and give people feedback on how they did.
Yeah. All right, and then my last question, what will ranked splits and resets look like in the future?
Yeah, we're actually just in conversations about that now. I guess it's undecided in a sense of just in terms of duration, because we are planning bigger things TM with ranked splits than what we had in SMITE 1, so it's a bit less of a small decision, I'd say. However, it's gonna look like, as far as like functionally, we're gonna be doing soft resets, but the soft resets will be a bit more of a game-wide event than it was in SMITE 1. SMITE 1, it just affected like the top 5%, 10% of players. We want it to be a bit more of an event for everybody, where they get to kind of reset some of their progress, get a bit of a boost towards ranked, start playing a bit more fresh again instead of having that only happen at the start of the year, and then leaderboards and stuff like that. So functionally, there's a few ranking things, leaderboard things happening, but the actual look of ranked splits is going to be, as I said, big things TM. Coming soon.
TM.
Big things TM.
Love to see it.
Yep.
Well,
I'm gonna go back to one
more?
question that came in earlier, which is kind of unrelated, and hopefully I won't start a firestorm on. Somebody asked, is there going to be an election event in game? There is not going to be an election event, but as a reminder, tomorrow is election day in America. If you are a registered voter, you should vote. That's all I'm going to say on that, because you don't watch this show for anything other than that. But there's a reminder: the election is tomorrow, and you should probably vote.
Yep.
The end.
cool.
I was gonna hold up my Canadian flag.
Doesn't apply to you, Max. Yeah, you just get to watch the
chaos.
North,
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in to our Monday edition of Titan Talk. Killgoon, thanks for hanging out. Max, thanks for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you
Max.
on. All
Always
the
a
charts
pleasure
and
to be on.
stuff, going through that. Chat, thanks so much for hanging out with us. We will see you on Wednesday for our next show. We'll be going over Nemesis, Khepri, and Izanami in-game, showing off some of the cool stuff for the next 3 gods headed to SMITE 2. I believe that update is tentatively scheduled for sometime next week.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it goes. And until then, we will see you all on the battleground. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Peace.